All right, now we are going to build a basic quest system. When I say quest system, it sounds a lot like, a medieval game or a fantasy game, building a quest system with stages in it. And it's that same sort of thing. But I say quest, it could be tasks, it could be missions, it could be all sorts of stuff. The basic setup of this is the same, regardless of what you call it. So don't get hung up on the name that like a quest manager for a fantasy game is somehow fundamentally different than a mission system for an RTS sci-fi game or whatever. Yeah, it's really not. It's pretty much a simple set of stuff where we're going to have a list of things the player needs to accomplish. They're going to be specific, and we're going to communicate those to the player specifically so they understand what they're doing. Have you ever played those games where it says, look around for more clues? What does that mean? Like, seriously, what does that mean? I don't look where, for what? I hate those things. And there's some big name publishers who do that. So anyway, don't do that to your players. We're going to be very specific. Then we're going to set up some things in the world that will allow the player to update those. So in other words, we're going to find some objects, we're going to go to some areas, we're going to take some actions, things like that. So this is a pretty good example of how you could build your own quest system. Of course, it's going to be a little different in every game and in every level and all of that. So this is going to cover all the nuts and bolts, and you can take these basics and go forward and build something much more complex. One last thing I'll say before we dig into the bread and butter of this is that I've had games where it's been as simple as what I'm about to show you. Some where it's been coded, written in script. Some where it's come out of a database. You can have missions that come out of websites and get updated on the fly, and you can have stuff even in games like Skyrim that were dynamically generating missions. As the player was playing, it was creating things for you to do around you. So don't get too hung up, on again how this has to be in a certain way. You can build it this simply. You can expand it. You can shrink it down, and you can totally interact with other systems. Like if someday you want to use a database, you can totally plug in this way and work. But this is how it's set up. This is the most important part of it. All right. Here we go. First of all, let's take a look at what our quest is actually going to be comprised of. I have some simple quest stages here I set up. We're going to have 4 stages, and I really recommend that you always write these down because so many times in games where we go astray, like we all do it, is because you don't have it really written out what you want your player to do. We just kind of assume. And so if we just talk about these, first of all, use the elevator to exit this area. I'm going to use really generic, kind of testy, example-y sounding quests because there's no reason to add story. In reality, use the elevator to exit this area would be like, hey, Spaceman 5 needs our help over in the such and such starship, so we've got to get to the transporter room on level 15 in order to beam up and give him assistance in defeating the evil Zarkon race. You're going to have crap like that as your story, and it's going to sound more like that. But for right now, use the elevator to exit this area. This is what your player's really doing. I suggest you boil your mission or quest stages down to something this simple before you go do big story elements, because use an elevator for what? Exiting this area. You could really easily say get to, Spaceman 5. Where the hell is he? Well, he's on another starship. Where is that? It's way over there. In fact, it doesn't kind of exist because it's a game. Well, how would I get there? Don't leave your player that way. Just use the elevator to exit this area. It's very functional, and you'll get your own wiring down better if you think this way. So stage number 2, once we reach the elevator, right? Use an elevator. I'm going to look for the elevator. I'm going to find it. We're going to enter that zone, and then we're going to update the quest to say, the elevator's broken. Oh, noes. Find parts needed to repair it. So this is a simple thing. Get the player to one area, right? That's it. Go find this elevator, and then we're going to block your progress and give you some tasks to do. So the elevator's broken, find the parts. And this could be, we could have cutscenes running here. You could have in-game dialogue. You could have the person radioing, looks like the elevator's out, Bob. You're going to have to find some parts. And you could do all that stuff. Whatever you want to do, that's fine. But the bottom line is they need to go collect some stuff. So we are going to update the quest in the HUD so that they know what they're doing. And then we're going to fire up one of those little meters that's like parts collected 0 of 3. And then you pick up a part and it'll say 1 of 3. And you pick up another part, it'll say 2 of 3. So I'll show you how to build one of those. And when it's updated, then we will advance to here, no matter where you are in the level, repair the elevator. So now you've got your parts, all this stuff's done. We've already established that the elevator is in need of repair and where it is, so the player knows where to go back to. And finally, once the elevator is repaired, meaning you've done some specific actions, then it will be exit this area. Go back and actually do the thing you were going to do in the first place. Right? Just get out of here. So we're going to go for that. We're going to just do these 4 stages, and it's going to be a lot more twisty-turny than you expect, but also not too hard that you guys can't do it. This is a pretty good example of a standard kind of mission or little quest complexity you might have in any given game. So with that, I've made a new level here in Unity. I'm going to drag in my test room. We'll just set up a couple things really fast. So why not? I'll just use this again. I want to get rid of this one block, though, so that we can make kind of our elevator, remember? And I'm going to, I've broken the, those of you paying attention, I've just broken the connection with the prefab. I don't really care. This is going to be fine because this all gets changed anyway. The point of the prefab is just to work quick. So I'm going to pull these few boxes up. And in my Spectre, I'll just inspector, Spectre, like I'm suddenly playing Mass Effect. Then I'm going to line these up exactly numerically so that they, they perfectly match, so I don't have weird off-center stuff. And that's enough for now, because I just want some kind of elevator shaft. So as the player, we're going to be standing in here, and clearly, there's a shaft that goes up somewhere, and we'll have to go there. So I'm not trying to make the perfect level. I just want to set it up so it's at least, understandable what we're doing. Then let's go ahead and save this scene. I'll call that, let's call this quest system. How about that? Put it under my scenes. And I've got an elevator prefab that I made. You remember this gorgeous elevator thing we made? I made one off of that elevator from the other level. So how about I just drag it in there, zoom on in, and if I remember right, it didn't matter where we put it because you could enter on any side because we've got this trigger, right? So I'm just going to line it up kind of roughly. Do that, and that's good enough. So now I've got an elevator that'll take us out of there that's kind of in the corner. Okay, and we needed a machine that's broken by the elevator in order to repair, right? So how about we grab Gizmo 1? You remember this thing? Which I've been kicking around. I used in an earlier example. So why don't we just throw that in? And that will be our not so amazing elevator. How about we put it, I don't like it blocking the elevator, but how about we put it over here kind of by the elevator as if it's associated in some way? Like maybe there's a giant chain coming off of that or a piston or whatever. Doesn't really matter for the moment. All that matters is that we have some thing to interact with, right? So there they are. That's going to be the zone you have to go to get to the elevator, and the elevator will go on up into parts unknown, and you'll into the wind zone or whatever. So we can now rig up everything we need off of that, I believe. So let's see. We had an elevator to exit, broken thing, a thing to repair. Oh, and we are going to need some parts. Remember, because we're going to collect some parts. So I have cooked up a new little electric box. I'm just going to drag in this Maya object model that I have made. Give that a second to import. It's just a really simple, basic thing. There we go. Electric box. And you can see it's just sort of a kind of a crazy deal. Let me drag that into the level. We'll zoom in. And I've got the origin point placed so that like my little pipe's at the bottom. So what I can do is set it. Let me zoom in again. So I kind of set it up against a wall like this. It's designed to be, oh, and I've got it backwards actually. So let me rotate that by 180 degrees. There we go. So yeah, it's designed to just be set up into a wall, sort of like this. There we go, that's good enough. And so there's some little gizmos, some little pipes. And I didn't do too much, but that's the sort of modeling you can do like as a designer, as a level designer. I mean, you know, you can be I'm capable of more. I'm sure many of you are. Doesn't matter, because some artist is going to totally redo this, and you don't know that makes sense anyway. So I made this much because it shows that I think that looks electrical. I think you get it. And then this gold thing is clearly the most important part because it really stands out. So there won't be too much of a question. And the idea is that we're going to take that and make it disappear when somebody takes it out, right? And then I can move it and copy it around all over the place. And you see it's got a few colors on it. And what I did is I mapped it to the UVs. I just really quickly mapped to where's that? These utility textures for the texture atlas right there with the color texture atlas. So I've got a few colored textures in there. So there's like that gold you can see, and just some cruddy. These are just really cruddy, simple, quick textures I made a grid of so that I could have a way to just break it up a little bit and have it stand out. See, like there it pops from the wall. Whereas if I use that same gray texture on it, it wouldn't show up anymore. And ultimately, I'd do that with the machine, but I'm not going to do that right now. This will work fine. So there we go. So I'll show you how to rig this up to have objects disappear out of it. We will block the elevator access block the elevator from working until we repair the machine. And then we'll use some zones. So we're having a couple things you have to click on, and we're going to use a couple zones, all that, and have it all controlled by a quest manager. So let's finish the wrap up here, and we will move on in the next video and start building the quest manager.